Hello students, welcome to week 2 for COM 405. This week we will be going over rhetorical analyses and what that means. And so this lecture is titled Rhetorical Analysis. If you take a look at the week 2 agenda, you can see that we have a number of things that are required this week. In particularly, we will be reading chapters 3 and 4 of the Rhetorical Act, our course text, and we will be watching 3 videos in addition to this video lecture. In those videos, it'll help explain Aristotle's position on rhetoric, the art of rhetoric, and kind of get into an overview of what rhetorical analysis is. Additionally, you'll be completing weekly review number 2. This week it is not a discussion board, and you'll have your rhetorical analysis activity artifact identification due. All of the assignments this week, as per the syllabus, are due on Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. When you look at the weekly review, you can see here that you are assigned to read the speech on pages 72 to 76. Once you're done with that, you're going to answer the 4 questions listed here. Once you've done that, you'll construct a paper in APA format that includes a title page, an abstract, and reference page that's at least 3 to 4 pages in length. When I say 3 to 4 pages, that means 3 to 4 pages of actual content. The title page, abstract page, and reference pages are excluded from that requirement. So the actual written pages are 3 to 4 pages. You'll also use outside sources in addition to the course text to help support your contentions within your answers. Essentially, the first question in the weekly review is requiring you to look at how well does this speech fulfill rhetorical purpose in initiating action. You'll look at some of the ideas of cognitive dissonance and that psychological discomfort for audiences and contemplating actions, as well as audience-related rhetorical obstacles, to see how the speech really fulfills a rhetorical purpose of initiating action. So this particular speech we're analyzing is looking for a call to action. After that, you'll go ahead and look at how well does this speech follow a motivated sequence and the organizational pattern of the speech. The third thing you'll do is look at how this speech illustrates suggestions made in the chapter for picking a topic, researching a subject, and preparing a presentation and how it fits with that content. And then the last thing you'll do in your weekly review is look at the introduction and conclusion to see if it meets all of the criteria outlined in the current chapters we're reading, chapters 3 and 4, to look at how these parts of the speech should be accomplished. Once you've done all of that, you should definitely be, if you're looking at that, at 3 to 4 pages. Look at each question or prompt within the requirement as a page length for those answers, and then you'll definitely hit the required writing amount for that. As we get further into the course content, it's important to look here at our rhetorical analysis project. This is a multifaceted project that requires a number of assignments within this. What you'll be doing is completing an oral and a written rhetorical analysis of an artifact. This week you will identify the artifact. The artifact that you pick will be utilized for both your written analysis and your oral analysis. And so what I mean by that is throughout the semester you will be creating a speech that you will be presenting. That's your oral rhetorical analysis. And then you'll be creating a written rhetorical analysis, the paper that you will be writing, analyzing a particular artifact. And we're going to spend this time in this lecture getting into that. You will use the same artifact for both analyses, like I said, and you're going to submit 3 assignments and related to preparing for this. So we're going to be working on this throughout the semester. It's referred to as a rhetorical analysis project, and we have a number of different assignments related to that. I'm not going to get into too much of the components of the written and the oral analysis at this point. You can see here in the instructions from Blackboard that your paper will be 2 to 4 pages, and your oral analysis will be recorded utilizing screencast or YouTube or something of that nature. And you will need to have a live video in that presentation. And we'll get into that later on. It's not due for a while. This week, what we're doing to work on towards that project is identifying our artifact. So when we're identifying our artifact, we need to know that an artifact is an item that you're going to utilize to rhetorically analyze. This artifact usually is typically some type of persuasive message with a distinct beginning and end that makes an interesting or maybe provocative appeal to the audience. It has some type of call to action for the audience, and that you feel is worthy of analyzing. You're going to spend a lot of time looking at this particular artifact, so it has to be something that's worthy of analysis. To really effectively analyze the artifact, you really need to identify and describe at least one ideology, which is an underlying belief system or worldview. It's what we utilize to make value judgments of the world. That's an ideology. So your ideological perspective of voting or religion or whatever it may be comes from your belief system, is what that means, and in a number of different categories as well. So in this particular assignment, you're going to include the following. Your response is going to be 200 to 300 words, and when I say full APA, I mean with cover page, abstract, all of that, well, at least cover page and all of that. You're going to state what your artifact is, you're going to describe the artifact, and then you're going to identify the type of communication this artifact was used within. What type of media format or communication medium was this communication used within? Is it a speech? If so, how was that speech disseminated? Who was it sent out to? Who was the attended audience? How was this information received for the audience? So on and so forth. And then the fourth thing you'll do is provide an explanation of how this artifact is used within the type of communication. So you not only identify the type of communication was used, but what was the reasoning, or how was it used for this type of communication? So was there a call to action? Was it used to be persuasive for political action or something of that nature that you can take a chance and look at? As you choose your artifact, there are a number of things that you should be looking at. When you look at the screen to the left, you'll see some questions you should be asking yourself about the artifact. On the right, you'll see that communication happens in the moment and often leaves a permanent record. We know this. So really an artifact, or rhetorical artifact in this sense, is anything that leaves a permanent record. It's a piece of communication, so written documents, picture, video, audio, tape. It's persuasive. We can use it like scientific data, meaning we're going to analyze it. The object itself, the object of the conversation is also an artifact, so what is talked about and discussed together. So really conducting a rhetorical analysis is just analyzing in terms of how it communicates, not just necessarily what it communicates. So when we are looking at an artifact, we need to know that we are analyzing how the artifact communicates, not just what it's communicating to us. So definitely keep that in mind. So look at your artifact and make sure you can clearly identify, I'm going to say that again, how it communicates, not just what it's communicating. And in that, you'll look at some of the questions. What is the rhetorical situation? Who is the author and speaker? What is their intention? What's the content of the message? What form is it conveyed in? How do form and content correspond with one another? Does the message, speech, text succeed in fulfilling the author's or speaker's intentions? What does the nature of the communication reveal about the culture? And so on and so forth. The chapter talks about, the chapter spends some time talking about rhetorical acts. They define and they go through 6 types of rhetorical acts that we can utilize in developing oral rhetorical analyses as well as written ones. Storytelling is used to create a presentation and provide a virtual experience for the audience. You are really utilizing narratives, rhetorical narratives that is coherent, authentic, and descriptive. Your narrative really needs to have all the elements of a good story, and your aim is to show the audience that you are captivating them in a timely, novel, and memorable way. So you really need to make sure that you are telling a story through your analysis when you use that particular type of rhetorical acts. The next rhetorical act is a definitional rhetorical act. This type of rhetorical act has the primary purpose of defining the particular artifact that you're analyzing. Really what happens is in this type of rhetorical act, you are defining an unfamiliar or often misinterpreted concept within society. So it's something that's new to people, or it may be misinterpreted by a particular group within society, and your aim is to shape the audience's knowledge by defining this term or this particular artifact more clearly, accurately, and imaginatively. You have to make sure you clearly understand the parts of speech, outline the techniques and evidence utilized within the definitional strategies, and to give depth to this particular artifact so that society can gain knowledge from your definition of it that is something that was more unfamiliar or maybe misinterpreted by them to begin with. An instructional rhetorical act has the purpose of really providing an instructional presentation. This is where you're using the act of teaching to help your audience learn how to define, explain, and analyze what this artifact is. Your aim is to give the audience really a new and comprehensive overview to expand their awareness and understanding of this particular artifact. You want to really help them see and develop a strong understanding of the artifact by using clear and convincing evidence and argument organization to help them really understand this purpose of this particular artifact. A public service rhetorical act has a purpose of helping to move your audience to accept a point of view and support. So call them to action, a person, a place, a program, or a product. The aim of this type of act is to shape audience belief around questions of values by developing convincing and promotion, convincing information in the form of sometimes public service announcements or something to where you can enhance their understanding of this for them to see how it benefits society in a way for them to understand this new point of view and support of this particular context. Policy rhetorical acts has a purpose of creating dissonance by presenting pressing social problems and then restoring consonance by proposing a workable solution. So what ends up happening is your aim is to construct a case around some type of question of policy and allow them to see all perspectives of the particular policy so they can come up with a workable solution. And lastly, the ceremonial rhetorical act is really used to provide a tribute or inspirational message or analysis of an artifact, usually an idea, a person, or event, to rally the audience to reflect, admire, and honor the actual artifact in some way. So you really will, in this type of rhetorical act, need to understand how to use language poetically and also the special constraints of the particular artifact to help construct a really valued inspirational tribute to this particular area, which is very important. So as we continue to move through the content, you'll see that as we select an artifact, we're going to describe and identify it. So the general purpose of a rhetorical artifact is determined by the occasion or the assignment, yes, but you have to craft a strong thesis around it in your analysis. So all rhetorical analyses has the artifact clearly identified and described and rationalized, but it also has a strong thesis in support of what your primary function is within this particular rhetorical act. That's why we just went through the different types of rhetorical acts, the storytelling, the definitional, the ceremonial, and such. So after, and you don't have to do this at this point, but you should be thinking towards this, you need to be thinking about a thesis for your rhetorical analysis. This thesis will be utilized in the oral analysis as well as the written analysis. The thesis is the cornerstone and the crux of what it is you are working on. It's strongly encouraged that you submit your thesis with your artifact identification and description assignment. However, it's not required. We'll get to that at some point later on in the semester, so you have plenty of time to work on that, but you need to be thinking of that because your thesis is your clear statement, just like you would put in any essay or formal writing you do for any paper in any course. It's still applicable here because it allows the reader or the listener to have the beliefs of the artifact reinforced. Reports are expected to provide information and create understanding of it, and it's really the cornerstone of your analysis and strategy for the paper and oral presentation. So as we move through the course content this week. Let's recap so we briefly can remember what we have going on. Let's not forget that we're reading chapters 3 and 4 of our course text. We're listening and watching this lecture as well as watching the 3 videos listed under the watch section. And then you're completing weekly review number 2 as well as your rhetorical analysis assignment where you're identifying your artifact. If at any point you're not quite sure on what a good artifact is for you, select some and run them by me, and I will give you some pointers as to what may work or may not work. The main thing is that you choose some type of communication, speech, film, video, book, something written, whatever it is, that you're passionate about and you want to spend time with. Because from here on out throughout the rest of the semester, we're going to spend time with this particular artifact, a lot of time. So it has to be something you enjoy spending time with. Other than that, I pray that you all have a blessed week. I'm currently going through all your week 1 assignments, and that your typical turnaround time for that is towards the end of week 2. Assignments are usually graded by Friday in the following week unless it's a major assignment. So I'll be working through that. And if you have any questions, please reach out, and I pray you all have a blessed week. God bless.